Hello and welcome to Blind Productions. I'm Dez, and this week has been finals week. So I've been crazy busy running around trying to get all my school stuff and schoolwork done on time so that I can, get good grades and such. And as such, I have not had nearly as much time to work on the channel and artwork and things that I would like to, but it's all okay because it's all over now. So this week's video is actually one of my final projects for humanities. We had to create an original piece of artwork based off of a time period that we had studied in class and, kind of tie it back to that and take inspiration from it. So I chose to work from Leonardo da Vinci's work, primarily the Last Supper and the Vitruvian Man, to create this piece. This is a 3D representation of Christ based on the Last Supper, using that as a base to get the beginning measurements and using the proportions laid out in the Vitruvian Man to create a 3D model and representation of Christ. So I took the basic sketches that I did of the isometric views and put them together in Blender, and I focused on creating more of a polygonal look for this piece because I wanted the focus to be on the proportions and whatnot, not so much on the intricate details of the face and the body, but rather how all the body parts relate to each other by way of size and proportion and such. I then took my model, brought it into Tinkercad, once again, and I took care of some of the outer details. So I only did the actual body figure in Blender, and I decided to make all the clothes and the hair and everything in Tinkercad as to make my work a bit simpler and a little streamline it just a little bit. Since again my focus wasn't on these intricate details of the figure, but rather just the proportions and sizing of things and how it all relates to each other. So once I was done with my model, obviously I 3D printed it. And when it came to how big I wanted the figure to be, I needed to scale it against something, because I obviously wasn't going to make a life-size figure of Christ, because according to my calculations, he would have been, at least as Da Vinci presented him, 5'4". I'm not going to 3D print a 5'4" person, so I scaled him against a 11.5-inch action figure of Darth Vader. So when I presented my project, it would give a contrast of how tall Da Vinci's representation of Christ would have actually been in real life, as Darth Vader's height is known to be at 6'6". So my 3D printed figure of Christ ended up being just over 9 inches, about 9.5. I did the printing actually in two parts. just because I find it usually the prints come out nicer that way. Like with my last 3D printing project, the Kokiri Emerald, I tried printing it as one solid piece, but it made it more complicated and didn't come out as clean and as crisp as I would have liked it to, so I split it in half and did it that way, and I did the same here. Both for time constraints. I couldn't always be by my 3D printer. I don't like to leave it just running while I'm out and about doing things, just in case something goes wrong. I then went through and primed the figure after assembling him. I usually use a black primer, but just because I like it better, but I ran out of black, so I had to use white, because that's all we had around. So for the painting, I ended up using some fluid acrylics from Golden. These are good paints, but I wanted to see how well they would adhere and work on the plastics from 3D printed models, just in case, for future projects, if I wanted to use these, how well they would stick. And they seem to do a pretty good job. I ended up having to do multiple coats of each color just to get the color to really look the way that I wanted it to. I think that was mostly just due to the white primer. For the actual colors themselves, the color scheme of the figure, I decided to, again, since it is based on Da Vinci's Last Supper, I would use kind of the color scheme that he had for Christ in that, with the blue robe over the top and red underneath. I didn't focus on putting too much detail into the figure, because I wanted the focus to be on the proportions and the size and that part of the sculpture rather than the actual details of the colors and facial structure and things like that, mostly just body proportions. So yeah, that was a lot of fun to do and very interesting to make. So this is actually the first humanoid figure I've ever done, so it made it very interesting and fun to do and to put together. So let me know down below if you would like to see more stuff like this in the future, more 3D printed stuff, sculptures and figures and things. And with that, I will bid you adieu until next time. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like it and subscribe to keep up with all my content. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And if you want to go the extra mile and really lend a lot of support, you can follow me on Patreon. Doing so really helps the channel to grow and also allows you access to exclusive content that you otherwise wouldn't be able to get to. Again, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next week.